Hi, I'm Jenny Fish from One Big Happy Yarn Company. Welcome to our block of the month. Are you ready to start block one? I am. First off, let's talk about the yarn. We're going to be using Barocco Comfort, and it is 50% fine nylon and 50% acrylic. So there's no wool in this project, which actually makes it great for this afghan. And one block at a time, it's fantastic. We're also using a size 7 knitting needle with a 32-inch or longer cord. That way you can work all the blocks on the same needle. And when we're finished, we'll show you how to work the border. But let's get started on block one. Very simple pattern. It's texture. All of the blocks in this block of the month is texture. So that's the theme that I went for when I designed this. And each month we're going to learn something new and have an exciting journey as we go across the entire year making this block of the month. Fleck Stitch, block one. Super simple. So let's cast on and get started. Here we go. So here is my finished block that I just made to show you guys what it looks like. And here it is in the afghan. See how it plays right in there, and it has this wave of texture that plays along with it. But it's so simple. It's knits and purls, and it's kind of a warm up. Let's get started. It's step one. We're gonna learn to make this simple block as we move along. Now, also too, I wanna point out that each of these blocks you're gonna make twice. You'll make one in one color, one in another color, and you can decide which colors you want each block to be, but know that you're gonna be making 2 blocks of each of these patterns that I'm showing you. And also something else I want to point out right out, each block you're going to block out to 10-inch squares. So keep that in mind as you're going along. A tape measure is very handy for this project because I'm going to give you the number of stitches to cast on for the gauge, and each in the pattern too, each block will have its own gauge. But because they're only 10-inch squares, I would say go ahead and get started and then measure as you go along, and then you can block out. But I'll give you the stitch count that you're going to use to cast on, and then from there you just repeat those patterns until it's 10 inches, and then you bind off. So that's going to be the same throughout every block in here. If your gauge is just a little bit off from what's in the pattern, be consistent. Make every one of your blocks the same size, and when you seam them up at the end, it'll all work together. That's a very important step one before we even get started. Gauge, make sure your blocks are the same size, and mine ended up being 10 inches. If yours is 10 and a quarter, you should be okay. If it's over that, keep in mind you may need more yarn because this pattern and the kit is based off of the 10-inch square. If you're a little bit smaller, you're okay. So just keep that all in mind as we go along. There is extra yarn for the border. So if you are able, each of these balls of yarn, you should get 2 blocks, and any of them. So you should get 2 blocks out of 1 ball of yarn, and there is extra border yardage if you wanted to make your border thicker, and we'll go into that as we go along, but I just want to kind of give you the basics of the yarn as we get started and how this all works out. But let's get started on block one. This is called the Fleck Stitch pattern. Super simple, just knits and purls, but I want to show you how we work that. To begin with, for casting on all of these blocks, I used a long tail cast on as my preferred method. However, the thing that you need to keep in mind is you will, because you're sewing these blocks together, you will be picking up the sides, the edges to seam everything together at the end. So if you choose like a backwards loop cast on, you may have a wobbly edge. So choose a cast on that has a very structured and sturdy edge. It'll help you later on. I like the long tail cast on. We do have a stitch support video that shows you how to make that, but I'll go ahead and give you just a little reminder on that. And I'm just going to cast on a few so that I can show you this pattern as we go along. I made my slip knot. I have the tail towards my body, my working yarn out. Go into the slingshot, go under and over and through, and tighten. You want everything to be comfortably smooth. You want to keep your stitches consistent in size. That will help as your tension as you go along. And it'll also help on that edge. Now keep in mind, you don't want this super tight down here because you're going to be using these to seam together your blocks later. So that's just a friendly reminder. We want to keep those very consistent. So let me just make sure I get an even number of stitches on here to get started. In the pattern, it'll tell you how many stitches you cast on. For this block, we're casting on 50 stitches, but I'm just going to do a few here so I can show you how this pattern works out. It's really important that you keep these consistent and to keep this nice and smooth here on your cast on. If you get interrupted or if you see that there's something that's not quite looking right, now's the time to correct it. So you can just take it off and recast on and make everything smooth and consistent. We're going to cast on 50 stitches for this first block. I'm just going to cast on a few here, make sure I have an even number so I can show you how the pattern works. This is a 2-stitch repeat. And what I mean by that is on each row, you're only doing 2 stitches, and then it's a 4-row repeat. So that means every 4 rows, you're going to start over from row 1. Like on the 5th row, you'll go back to 1, and I'll show you that as we go along. Okay, so I've got some stitches cast on here. Let me just make sure that they're an even number so everything works out. Okay, so you'll be casting on 50. And on your pattern, row 1 is slip 1 and then knit to the end. The reason why, and all of these blocks, we're slipping a stitch. That gives us a nice smooth edge on the side of our work, and that comes in handy when we're seaming up our block later. So when I say slip 1, it's going to be knitwise unless indicated. So you'll see in the pattern a PW, which means purlwise. So if it says slip 1 purlwise, that's what you do. If it just says slip 1, then you slip 1 knitwise. And what that means is we're going to slip 1, and that's very simple. You just slide your needle in and slide that stitch off. You don't work any extra yarn into it. So that's the slip 1, and that's giving us the nice edge on the side, and then it's knit across. So then you just slide your needle in and knit all the way across. This is row 1. So I knit all the way across. Now you turn. Now, I did recommend using circular needles. One thing I want to point out, as you're working each block, if you prefer to use straight needles, you can totally do that as you're working the individual blocks. The cord and the circular needle really comes in handy later on when we're doing the border, but for each individual block, if you prefer straight needles, go ahead. Main thing is I'm using a size 7. You can use that or whatever size you need to obtain the gauge for that block. So it's not like you have to do it exactly. Do what works so that you get your 10-inch block. Okay, so now we are on row 2, and this is where the slip 1 purlwise comes in, and I want to show you how to make a slip 1 purlwise. You slide your needle into that first stitch as if you were going to purl, just like this, and then you slide it off without working any yarn into that stitch. That is going to keep a nice edge on the side, same as the other side. Okay, and now we're just going to purl to the end of the row. Very simple. You're just purling each stitch. You do this all the way across row 2, and then I'll show you how to work row 3. Now we're ready for row 3. We are on the right side of our work. We're going to slip 1 knitwise. Again, you slide your needle in as if to knit. You just don't work any yarn. Slide that off. And now we're going to knit 1, purl 1. So on the first row we knit, second row we purl, third row we're going to knit and purl back to back. So you knit 1 stitch, purl 1 stitch. That's where you bring your yarn to the front and you purl that stitch. Take your yarn to the back, knit that stitch. Bring your yarn to the front and purl. Yarn to the back and knit. You do this all the way across row 3.
When you get to the end of row 3, tell them what stitch they should end with.
So when you get to the end of your knit 1, purl 1, the last stitch is going to be a knit stitch. So you'll just do that one time. And that's a good way to tell that you've got the right amount of, or that you've got an even amount of stitches on here, is when you end with a knit stitch as your last stitch. So you slipped your first one, then you knit and purl all the way across, and then that last stitch you knit again. And then you're ready to turn. And now we're on row 4. You slip the first stitch as if to purl. So that means you're going to slide it in this way, slide it off, and then you just purl all the way across. Back in, like this, all the way across. Now you have completed the 4 rows of the pattern. And you just start again with row 1, which is knit, row 2, which is purl, row 3, which is knit and purl, row 4, purl. Repeat that over and over again until you're at 10 inches. Let me go ahead and finish this, and I'll show you what it looks like on my little piece here. And this is the right side of your work. The right side of your work, you're going to see the V's that are the knit stitches and the bumps that are your purl stitches. The back side, or the wrong side of the work, is mostly purl bumps. So that's a good way to tell your front from your back. A lot of times when you're new to knitting, it's hard to tell what the stitches look like, and that's also called reading your knitting. Until you get used to that, a very helpful hint is to take a locking stitch marker and slide it into the right side of your work. So that way you always know, oh, this is the right side of my work. And it kind of helps keep you on target where your pattern's at. You can use your row counter to keep track. Am I on row 1, row 2, row 3, or row 4? Knit Companion, use the tool that works best for you, but I also suggest testing out different methods to see what really works best for you. So that is the Flex Stitch block 1 of our block of the month. After you've gotten to 10 inches, then you're going to go ahead and bind off. Now, I do want to talk a moment about binding off. This is your first block, so we really need to get in the habit of a nice, clean bind off. Again, same as with our casting on, and same with the reason why we're slipping our stitches on the sides. We want nice clean edges because we're going to have to come back and seam all this together all in one. So we really want those edges to be nice. So binding off, we want a loose bind off but not wobbly. I know that's easier said than done in some cases, but this is a simple bind off that I used. You knit 1, knit 2, and then you take the tip of your left needle and lift the first stitch up and over the second. Don't tug at this point. It's tempting. It's really tempting. Don't tug. Just go ahead and knit into the next stitch and lift that up and over. One of the things that I do, just one of my little tips, is I sit here and I kind of look at it. I tug this side of it, not my working yarn, and make sure that everything is just not curling, that it's laying flat, that my loop that I'm using to bind off with matches the same size as the stitch underneath of it. That's a really good indicator that your tension for that bind off stitch is matching up with your actual knitting. This helps keep lying flat. And then you just knit the next one, lift it up and over. I do want to go back to a technique on this last one. Each of these stitches, they have stitches on either side of them, so that's hold on, how do I say that? Give me a second. I got to figure out the best way to say this. Each of the stitches in your bind off have a stitch before it and after it until you get to this last one. And it needs a little bit more help to secure itself so that it doesn't go off all wobbly. So I'm going to show you a little tip on this last one as soon as I get there. Okay, let's continue this bind off. Okay. So what you can do to help on this side over here is you go down to the stitch underneath, right in here, and knit into that stitch. And that is that's a slip stitch, so it's a little bit bigger, but go ahead and knit into that slip stitch, slide it on, and then knit these two together like this, and then lift this up and over. And now, I'll show you what that looks like. It gives it, well, I only have a little sample here, but it gives that last stitch a little bit more structure so that it's not all wobbly and going off to the side. You can do that, or you can just do a regular bind off. It's not a big deal. I just prefer to do that to give that last stitch a little structure. And then you just cut your yarn, slide it through, and then block it and set it aside, and then start it again in another color. Make all of these two this month, and then next month we'll be ready to start on block 2. You can block these right away as soon as you're finished, or you can set them aside and then have a blocking party at the end and block them all at once. I did both. I like knit up 4 of them, and then I used 4 mats to block them, set them aside, and then I knit up 4 more, and did it that way for me. But blocking parties are fun too. But yeah, I did a wet block. Honestly, what I could have done is the spray bottle where you spray it on the back side, put it on your blocking mat, spray it on the front side, block it out with your blocking pins. This is acrylic yarn, so it doesn't take too much to make it mind. It's actually pretty decent. So be sure to measure. You want to make sure that your blocks are 10 inches. Be consistent. And what I mean by that is if this is like 10 1/4, make sure your next one's 10 1/4, and the next one, and the next one. They all need to be the same size. So mine is 10 inches. There we go. I'm measuring from in between the outside stitch here and here, just like that, 10 inches. We're good to go. So meet me back here on February 1st for block number 2. Happy knitting.